Mr. Speaker, I'd like to also add my compliments to Chairman Camp, and not to be repetitive, but I think it's important to mention some of the fine work that Chairman Camp has done in his time here in Congress, and has inspired all of us, I think, to move to legislation that we're discussing today. He's left an indelible stamp on our nation's child welfare policy during the years he's served in Congress, and especially throughout his service on the Ways and Means Committee. There's a whole list of bills and initiatives and amendments that he's been associated with to champion this cause. But I think suffice it to say, Mr. Camp has probably done more than most in the last 20 years of his service here to the people of America to help children, and especially focused on foster care and adoption. So again, I want to join in praising and thanking the chairman for his service and dedication to the children of this country and families in general. And Mr. Speaker, I rise today to urge support of H.R. 4980. And the title of this bill is the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Strengthening Families Act. And this bill, as the chairman said, reflects a bipartisan agreement, bicameral agreement. So after we pass this bill tonight, it goes back to the Senate, and this will go to the President's desk, I'm sure, and be signed within, I hope, the next month or so. This bill is designed to prevent sex trafficking involving youth in foster care. It's designed to strengthen families by increasing adoptions from foster care, and it's designed to improve child support collections. And this issue is a very personal issue for me. And I've listened to the speeches tonight, and I appreciate the enthusiasm and the dedication and the focus that members of Congress have put on this issue over the last year especially. This is our second week this month, I think, that we've focused on human trafficking and foster care. Mr. Speaker, some people know that my previous career was in law enforcement. I spent 33 years in the sheriff's office. Many of those years spent in investigating a case that's been entitled the Green River murder case. We finally arrested that person. He says that he killed somewhere between 60 and 70 young girls in Seattle. 60 to 70 lives taken. Children's lives taken. I collected a lot of those bodies, Mr. Speaker. I remember them where they lay. 15-year-old girls. So we're not talking about a bill today, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker. We're not talking about a bill, legislation, that's just a piece of fluff. That's just a piece of legislation. That's just words. We're talking about lives, the lives of children, and monsters who are out there, and they've been discussed tonight, who are ready to prey on them, who are ready to take their life. Even if it's just to take a piece of their life away from them for a moment, or maybe 20 times a night. They take a piece of their lives, and they survive physically, mentally, emotionally. Their lives have been ripped apart, and so have the families. If you were to just drive down the street and see 10 young ladies standing on a street corner, Mr. Speaker, 6 out of those 10 involved in human trafficking, 6 out of those 10 would be foster kids. These are kids that we have responsibility for, that we have, as a nation, have the responsibility for. All of us in each one of our states who take care of foster children, and we place them in foster homes and they run away and we don't find them. And we don't search for them, and they go on the streets and they get scooped up by somebody who says, "I love you." Stay with me. I'll buy you clothes. I'll buy you jewelry. I'll put you on the street too, and that's how you're going to make the money to buy those things. And guess what? You're going to provide me with some of those things too. That just makes me sick. It should make every American sick to their stomach. We need to stop this. I've seen it with my own eyes. For 19 years involved in this case, trying to bring this monster, who not only took away their soul, but he also eventually ended up taking away their life. And he ripped that life out of the family's hands. Gone. My 15-year-old daughter, gone. Can you imagine? So that's why we need to help folks. One of the this is such an important piece of legislation. One of the young ladies who was one of the first victims in this case was Wendy Caulfield. She was a foster kid. She ran away from her foster home, and she ended up on the street. But nobody looked for Wendy Caulfield until we found her one day floating in the river just south of Seattle, dead. One of the things that I wanted to do as the chair of the Human Resources Subcommittee was to help educate this country and other members about this issue. And we held hearings. And we had experts from DSHS and the state of Washington and Human Resources all across the country who were directors of DSHS, and we had social workers, and all provided great information. But you know, one of the most powerful witnesses and speakers that we had was a young lady named Miss Ortez Walker Pettigrew, and she goes by the name of T. She was recently named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. This is a young lady who spent her first 18 years of her life in foster care, and 7 of those years were in human trafficking. And she's now one of the 100 most influential people in the world. She was trafficked on the streets, she was trafficked on the internet, she was trafficked on the back pages of newspapers, and now she's speaking out, and she's the one, and people like that are the ones that provide us with that information. I think that we can all agree that our nation's children deserve better, because her statement was, and her comment was, I felt like I was part of a family. I identified with my pimp and the other young ladies who were out working the street. That was my family, versus having a family that could hold them and love them. This bill requires states to identify victims of sex trafficking and provide them with the services they need to heal. It will also improve data on instances of child sex trafficking so better policies can be developed to prevent it. Also, on the prevention front, this bill makes sure that kids can be kids, that foster kids can participate in after-school events, which would give them, I think, make them less vulnerable anyway to getting involved in street activity and getting sucked into the life of human trafficking. It encourages states to move children out of the foster care system and into loving families more quickly. The approach we're taking is practical, it's bipartisan, it's based on experiences from states around the country, it's evidence-based, and it's also real-life experience-based. This bill incorporates a wide range of ideas gleaned from bills introduced by members of the Ways and Means Committee, like Mr. Paulson, who will speak soon, other members of the House, and over 150 pages of public comments received on our December 2013 discussion draft. I want to thank the subcommittee's ranking member, Mr. Doggett, who joins me on the floor today, as well as the chairman, Mr. Camp, and ranking member, Mr. Levin, for their support of this legislation and for their help throughout its development. I also want to thank the many outside groups who offered their feedback and their support. And as of today, we have received support for this bill from 48 child welfare groups, which is an indication of the high importance of this legislation. I can't think of a more important, more bipartisan topic than protecting vulnerable children in foster care in working to find loving homes for each